I honestly don't know if it's good morning still or good afternoon. I'm not really still good morning. That's really good. So good morning, Shana Tova, Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom, and all the wonderful blessings upon you. Some of us are old enough here to remember the song sung by Mary Hopkin in 1968. Those were the days, my friend. We thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we choose. We'd fight and never lose. Then the busy years went rushing by us. We lost our starry notions on the way. Nothing seemed the way it used to be. Yes, those were the days. My friend, yes. I just wanted to know who remembers those. This is how I can tell the age group here. If we follow the news today, we see and hear that our world is about to collapse, as if we're experiencing the worst time ever. The words of my late grandparents and mother-in-law, Alehem Shalom, come to mind as they used to say with heavy sigh, "Oh, the good old days, they are gone to never return." There are enough and too many indicators to support this fear that our world is about to collapse. Extreme heat and raging fires in Europe, Canada, and the United States, and more recently, the evergreen jewel, the island of Hawaii in Maui, was reduced to ashes. America has been bleeding between one mass shooting and the next. Gas prices are incredibly high. The unending Russian war with Ukraine continues to cause shockwaves across our aching globe. Even the peaceful country of Japan saw the assassination of its former prime minister last year during broad daylight. And of course, whatever is going on in Israel right now, but that's a topic for another sermon. I am convinced that each and all of us at some point have romanticized the past rather than embrace an uncertain future. But today, this morning, I want to deliver a message of hope. While researching this topic, I concluded that as dire as everything seems, my friends, nothing has changed that much in the world. As the biblical poet Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, said, "En chadash tachat hashemesh." There is nothing new under the sun, and he said that quite a few thousand years ago. Let me explain. Our world, even before humankind, has always been a challenging place. And there has never been a time, at least that we as an evolving species can remember, when humans have not suffered illnesses, wars, famine, warlords, dictators, and governments under pressure. I mean, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, the 6 Days War and Yom Kippur Wars in Israel in the 70s, and the ongoing terrorist attacks on our homeland long before Israel was even born. The bubonic plague, the Black Death, swept through Asia, Europe, and Africa in the 14th century, killing an estimated 50 million people, including about 60% of the European population. And the more recent worldwide COVID-19 pandemic that claimed the lives of nearly 7 million people around the world, and so on, and so on, and unfortunately, and so on. But seriously, I really don't want to depress you this morning, so stay, don't go, please. This is not fire and brimstone kind of a sermon, but rather, if you stay with me for just a few more minutes, the good news here is that the world has never been worse or better at any time since life emerged on this planet. Today, I want to speak in praise of optimism. Today, I'm here to quote the world-famous scientist Adam Mastroianni, who said, "There is no such a thing as the good old days." Yes, I would agree that everything is in constant change. And because we don't have real control over these changes, plagues and wars, as human beings, we tend to fear the worst. What it really comes down to is control. It is so difficult and scary to live a life where we each feel so small, so puny, fragile, and mortal in the face of all of both natural and human-caused disasters, political and radical violence in society, wars between nations, and unforeseen plagues. But how we deal with all the pain, growing fear, and doubt, that, my friends, depends on each individual. It is our choice to make. The main change has been in the accumulation and bombardment of information, says Dr. Adam Mastroianni, an experimental psychologist, in a scientific essay he wrote for the New York Times this past June. Dr. Mastroianni conducted several surveys in which he learned that most people believe things were better in the past and that the golden age of human kindness is long gone. According to Mastroianni, despite human perceptions, the good news is there has not been a moral breakdown in our world. The bad news is that people believe it has. And that strong belief leads to aspiring dictators who claim they can return us to a golden age that exists in the only place a golden age has ever existed, in the human imagination. As Rabbi Robert Goldstein wrote in response to that claim, "If I were a Black American, would I want to return to a time of segregation and discrimination?" It wasn't that many years ago that there were riots in Washington, D.C. when segregation ended in public swimming pools, whites attacking blacks who simply wanted to go swimming, or a woman who wanted to apply for a bank loan needed her husband to co-sign. How many of you still do so? Or someone who was gay forced into the closet, particularly if they wanted to hold onto a job in government. I'm not sure there ever was a golden era we would wish upon these oppressed groups. And this is the end of quote by Rabbi Goldstein. Yes, I would agree, some things have changed. When I was a kid, it would be a terrible intrusion on someone's privacy if our parents, God forbid, read our diary. Now, we all post everything online in our generation, and if people don't read or like it, we get offended. Today, we have Medicare and Medicaid. There was a time not very long ago when people who could not afford medical treatment would simply die. Think about life please help me. Thank you, just making sure everybody's still awake. In 1900, it was about 41 years. Today, it's 85 years in the United States. And speaking of which, who has taken an antibiotic recently? How many of you have survived cancer, COVID-19? Does anyone here have a transplant? Who's had cataract surgery? How many people here have benefited from a medical miracle such as CAT scans, ultrasound, MRI? Well, you get the idea. As I quoted before, there is always the wisdom to find in the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. Ma shehaya hu sheyeh, u'ma shena'asa hu sheye'aseh, ve'en kol chadash tachat hashemesh. That which was shall be, and that which was done is that which shall be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. In other words, problems don't go away, they just change. We are not the first nor the last ones to experience them. There will always be intolerance, bigotry, violence, and brutality. Look at the headlines popping up daily from local, national, and international news providers. But this knowledge does not release us from the responsibility of working towards a more peaceful and tolerant world. So yes, we have to keep abreast of problems that we need to deal with as a society and nation. But it's not on each individual's shoulders to deal with or solve these problems. I think it's absolutely okay to take a break and look at a puppy or kitten videos on social media or gardening videos on YouTube if that's your jam. Treat it like exercise. Once you start to get winded and tired, go watch a funny movie or a TV show. Life is a journey, not a race. None of us are going to solve all the problems of the world by worrying about them and trying to bear them on our own shoulders. Such problems don't simply go away, they just change. And the generations who come after us will continue problem solving as best they can. It's just human nature. Sometimes we just have to simply be, to witness, to remember, and to be with the people who themselves are experiencing difficult times in compassionate, wordless togetherness. May we all get to experience many positive events in our lives this year, and may we continue to live and appreciate the now instead of the elusive days of old. Those were the days, my friend, and these are the days of today and tomorrow. L'Shana Tova. May we all be blessed with a good, hopeful, and positive outlook on life. Shana Tova.